Over 80% of writers experience writer's block at some point in their careers. If you've ever stared at a blank page, you're not alone. And if you're facing it right now, I'm sorry. I know that's a rough place to be. But what if you could banish writer's block forever? Welcome back to The Edge, where we delve into all things writing related. Today we're tackling the universal struggle, overcoming writer's block and unlocking your creative potential. I've definitely been there myself, staring at a blank page with my mind completely empty. It's rough, especially when life gets busy and those precious hours are the only time you have to write. I've sat staring at the keyboard for most of a writing session with nothing coming to me, feeling unable to move forward, unable to even start. And I've had this go on for a week or more where I get this feeling every day. And I've also gone through creative dry spells where I can edit and revise, but just can't seem to get excited about anything new, and it feels like the ideas are just gone, like I'm not creative anymore. And that's writer's block. Writer's block can rear its ugly head for various reasons, such as a fear of failure, striving for perfection, or feeling uninspired. And when it happens, it's like hitting a creative roadblock that can significantly impact your productivity, your self-esteem. It can be frustrating, demotivating, it can make you feel like giving up. But don't give up. You can push through writer's block. Trust me, I've done it many times. Let's talk about some common reasons why people have writer's block in the first place. The first is just the fear of failure or not being good enough. A lot of writers, including myself, fear that our work won't measure up. We fear that it won't measure up to the work of other writers that we admire. We fear that it won't engage with our audience. We fear that it won't be as good as the last thing we wrote. And this fear can be paralyzing. It can prevent you from doing any writing at all, and you don't want that. Then there's perfectionism. As a writer, you want every word to be perfect, every sentence to be flawless, and you'll pause to check your grammar. You'll stop to fret over the exact word you want in a sentence. You'll try too hard to be clever, really wanting to impress your reader and show them how smart you are. Or you might fiddle with sentences and paragraphs, really trying to get a certain sense of pacing, or to create a specific tone or feeling. And this can lead to endless revisions and second guessing, stalling your progress, especially in a first draft. Try not to do this. It'll just slow you down. Other times you'll get blocked by a lack of inspiration. The ideas just don't come, or you have ideas, but they feel weak, boring, unoriginal. You've all heard that you can't wait for inspiration to strike, but what if you sit down and there's nothing but crickets? No ideas about the next scene. No curiosity about the cliffhanger you just wrote. No strong feelings about what you want to have happen to your characters or what your antagonist is going to do next. When any of these strike, we feel stuck, unable to move forward. It shuts down the process. It drains away your time. It makes you feel bad, like you're failing. And all these negative feelings, they build on each other, growing and growing into this nasty cycle that just feeds on itself and makes it harder and harder to break free. But don't worry, there are practical strategies and ways to beat writer's block. The first is to have a solid routine. And if you already have a routine, you might try changing it up. Creating a daily writing schedule establishes a sense of discipline and normalcy. By dedicating a specific time each day to writing, you train your brain to anticipate and prepare for creativity during these hours. And you have the rest of the day to let your subconscious run wild, coming up with creative ideas, visualizing the next scene, maybe realizing something you just wrote contradicts with something earlier in the book that you want to go fix the next time you sit down. And this regular writing practice helps to diminish that fear of the blank page. It gets you in the zone faster. It reduces the stress of not knowing when you're going to work on your project again. I have a whole video on creative stress. Go check that out if you're interested. And if this ever stops working, change it up. Swap your exercise and your writing times. If you have a longer writing block, break it into 2 smaller sprints instead of 1 big block. And if it's still not working, just take a day off and come back fresh the next day. But what else can you try? Freewriting is an exercise that seems to help a lot of people. And for some folks I've talked to, it's part of their daily warm-up. They just do 10 to 20 minutes of free writing first thing, and that kind of eases them into whatever they're going to be working on for the rest of the day. For others, it's a trick to come up with ideas when nothing is flowing. For me, when I do free writing, it ends up with videos like this. This whole script started as a free writing exercise. And if you aren't familiar with what it is, free writing is simply unstructured, undirected writing. Set a timer for 10 to 20 minutes and write nonstop until it goes off. Just write. Just keep pounding those keys, keep moving forward. Don't worry about grammar, don't worry about punctuation or coherence. Don't worry about content. Don't try to force a particular subject. Just go with the flow and keep typing. Free writing should be an almost random stream of consciousness that you don't interrupt and you don't try to steer. And for me, personally, when I do free writing, I don't even go back and read it most of the time. If some idea came up while I was free writing that resonated with me and it stuck with me to the end, then I'll stop at the end and I'll take a few minutes to write out that idea. Just rewrite it from the beginning and flesh it out after my free writing time is over. And free writing in this way allows you to bypass your inner critic. It allows you to unlock new ideas and thoughts that can jumpstart your writing process and can send you off with a lot of momentum. Another idea, if you're feeling blocked, is to change your scenery. Believe it or not, something as small as changing a room or even changing the direction you're facing can rejuvenate your creativity, and a larger change can do even more to reset your brain. If you usually write at home, try working in a different setting like a cafe or a library or a park. The surroundings can offer a fresh perspective and give you inspiration, breaking the monotony, and it helps you see your work in a new light. And just going to a new place, the drive, the walk, or the bus ride, that gives you time to think, time for your unconscious to tee up some fresh ideas so your analytic mind has something to play with when you sit down in that new environment to write. And I've done a lot of my best writing in coffee shops and libraries especially. I get my laptop open, I put my headphones on, put on some inspiring music, and there's no distractions. The refrigerator's not calling to me with a tasty snack. The coffee machine's not calling to me to refresh my drink. The pets aren't snuggling in my lap trying to get me to take a nap with them. It's just me, the keyboard, and my ideas. And if I need a little break, I'm in a public place, so I can just stop, look around for 5 minutes, do some people watching, eavesdrop on nearby conversations. Sometimes that gives you some inspiring ideas for your writing. And then once you're kind of recharged, you just go back down to your writing, do the next section. And these little switch-ups do wonders. And the thing about writer's block is to remember, everybody gets this. Any author you've ever heard of has had writer's block at some point or another, and they've all faced it, and they've all overcome it. And you can too. And just use the right strategies, be persistent, and you'll get past it. Just keep charging forward. And now for what I think is the most powerful tip I have to crush writer's block and to unlock a flood of creativity. And this is just to write through the block. Commit to writing a set amount every day, even if it's just a few sentences. Accept that not everything you write will be perfect. And the key here is to just keep moving forward. Keep putting words on the page. Allow yourself to write badly. Give yourself permission to make mistakes. Be compassionate with yourself. This will break through the barriers and it will allow your creativity to flow again. For me, my minimum is 500 words a day. If I'm not feeling it, if I don't have time, if I'm sick or stressed or distracted, I can still hit 500 words most of the time. And if I miss, if I fall short or just can't get any writing done in a day, I don't beat myself up about it. I don't even worry about it. I just hit it the next day. And for me, 500 words is a reasonable and achievable goal because I know I can knock it out in half an hour. If I just type and don't think about it too hard, I can knock that out very quickly. And if I'm more deliberate and more focused, that 500 words might take a little more time, might even take an hour if I'm really focused on sentence structure and wording, but it's still doable. And what I've found over and over again, when I'm in a bad way and I sit down to meet this bare minimum, to just check the box for the day and get it over with, what I usually find is I'll get motivated. I'll start to build up momentum. That creativity will turn on around word 300 or 400, and it'll just start to flow. And that quick 500 words turns into 2,000 words. And that's usually 2,000 words I'm very happy with. But at the beginning, when I sat down to start, I wasn't feeling it. I didn't want to write. I made myself do it, and I came up with something that I was really happy with. This doesn't work every time, but it works often enough that I've learned to trust this process. And talking to other writers, this seems to be the most effective tool out there. I've met a couple people it doesn't work for, and they've had to find other tricks to kind of get around their writer's block and maintain their productivity. But I'd say for 90% of the writers I've discussed this with, that daily word count is what keeps them focused, keeps them productive, keeps them moving forward, and gives them something to aim for with every writing session. But what about revisions? If you've been doing this for a while, you know that first draft is easy. That's the part anybody can do. But actually coming up with something that is really going to engage your readers and is really going to be special, you've got to revise and revise and revise again. And that's where a lot of the hardest work is. But how do you set a minimum for that? How do you keep score with that? For me, I put a factor on it. I'll usually set a factor of about 2 to 1 for a second draft, because on a second draft, I'm still mucking around with sentences and wording and paragraphs and adding and chopping. There's a lot of changes. But later drafts are usually much faster for me, so I'll set like a 4-to-1 ratio for that. So on a second draft, my target will be revise 1,000 words a day. On a third draft or later, my target will be to revise 2,000 words a day. This helps to keep up the momentum, keep score, and overcome my writer's block. But what works for you? Let us know down in the comments. So to wrap things up, remember the power of consistency and resilience in defeating writer's block. Embrace these challenges as opportunities for growth and creativity. You've got this. Keep writing, keep creating. If you feel blocked, focus on your routine. If you don't have a routine, set one up. If you have one and it's grown stale, change it up. If you're still stuck, try free writing. Just let go, let the words flow. Let your subconscious have a turn at the wheel. You'll be surprised what it comes up with. And don't forget to change the scenery once in a while. You can only stare at that one spot on the wall for so long before it begins to stare back. And then it gets creepy. And then you're seeing it in your nightmares. And I know you don't want that to happen. And on top of all these, have a daily target. Strive to hit it every day, no matter what life is throwing at you. Chip away at your project one day at a time, and before you know it, you'll be done. I'd love to hear from you. So share your own tips for combating writer's block in the comments below. And don't forget to subscribe for more content on writing, inspiration, and creativity. Let's support each other on this writing journey. Thanks for watching, and until next time, happy writing.